I need to introduce you to the Ladies' Night Dice Tower, which is right behind me. I got a whole bunch of random things to ask you, and we only have so much time. So I roll that die on the dice tower 3 times, and whatever we roll, that's what we start with. Number 1 is our high-low game. Can you give me one audition high and one audition low, and then maybe how you overcame that low?
I mean, any audition high is when you go in and you do it once and they go, wow, that was perfect. Audition low as an adult, I had plenty when I was a kid. I, for a while, would attempt a British accent when I was brought in for a British character. I cannot do one. Going in to attempt a British accent and realizing in the middle of the scene that it was just a very pointless thing to be doing, and then the looks on everyone's faces right after you finish the scene and they just go, thank you so much for coming in.
Next roll here. Oh, number 5. I'm glad we landed on this one because I only discovered your YouTube channel to prepare for this interview, and it is utterly delightful, and I love how it feels like you're just game for absolutely anything. So, what is number 1 on your YouTube channel bucket list? If you could take the biggest swing and make a video of whatever you wanted, what would it be?
I would love for the 3 of us to go on a trip to a foreign country all together and just film the whole thing and see what nonsense happens. Because when you get the 3 of us together, we're just ridiculous.
I'm gonna give you one more roll here. Oh, this is a big one. Role swap. If you could go back and swap roles in any of the movies that you've done with any of your co-cast, what role would you want to give a go?
The Rock. Like even his role in San Andreas where he plays my father, like I'd love to do all the cool stuff he got to do and fly helicopters and, you know, that's really fun. I love doing that kind of stuff.
Welcome back to Collider Ladies Night. I'm Perry Nemroff. This is Alexandra Daddario. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to play another game. This is our movie-themed dream team, and leaning into the fact that Die in a Gunfight is kind of like Romeo and Juliet, we're going to give you the opportunity to remake the movie of your choice. If you could pick any movie at all that you love, and remake it today, what would you pick?
And be in it?
You got my next question, but yes, you have to be in it.
Okay. One of the reasons, as I told you, I took Die in a Gunfight was I love stories, and I love this idea of, you know, like Pride and Prejudice, Keira Knightley. I loved that role, I love that period piece. I wouldn't be able to do an accent, but I just think it's just this, you know, I love the idea of that movie is so beautiful.
Just remember, this is your remake. We can relocate it to the States.
Great, so I don't have to do it.
We can even put it in the South, so you can have your Southern accent.
Yes, I've also always wanted to play Ariel. I love that they're doing a live action Little Mermaid.
All right, so if we're sticking with Pride and Prejudice here, who are you playing in the cast?
The girl, the sort of unrequited, the guy that she's going to end up being with, she doesn't know what his deal is. And then, you know, she finds out that he loves her and all the drama with that. Just like, I just think that the simplest stories are sometimes the best. Like the lovers that can't really get on the same page and the drama of that and the complications that happen with it.
All right, now the big thing to make your version of Pride and Prejudice stand out from the versions that came before. You need a big twist to make it stand out. What is the big twist of your version of the movie?
Oh, God. Big twist? Well, in modern day, I mean, we could totally, like, just turn it into halfway through, make it like a sort of Independence Day type thing. So you think it's one thing, and then in the middle of the movie, it's actually aliens are coming and we have to survive somehow, except it's a different time period.
What is something about your very first on-screen gig that looking back now makes you say, I am so glad I got that first go with a soap opera?
Well, I didn't know how to act when I booked that soap opera. I didn't know, like I had been in acting class, but I had only done commercials up to that point. So I learned where the camera was, where a mark was. I was still at the point where you walk to the spot you're supposed to stand and you'd see me walking, look for it, find it, and then say my line. I didn't know how to naturally land on a mark or find my light. On-screen kissing was like a bizarre concept to me. So it was a great training ground just for the basic things you need to know that you can't learn in acting class, and then also just getting comfortable in front of the camera and a crew.
So, going, I guess, probably on that as well. You've already mentioned hitting a mark, but whether it's on that set or maybe your first major film set, what is something about the way movies are made that, seemed like a seemingly silly question to ask, but you wish way back then you had the nerve to ask about it?
I think I asked a lot of questions. The thing was, I was so naive and knew so little that I wouldn't have even known that a question was silly. I had the nerve to ask. I think I was asking all kinds of questions. Like now I know it's not very polite to ask for playback, for example. Directors don't love when actors are constantly asking to see the scene back for good reason, because they don't want the shot to be judged. They don't want you to analyze the performance too much, But I would always just wander right up to Chris Columbus and be like, can I see that back? Like I would never do that now.
So there's a point early on when you are watching playback, or at least asking, or maybe looking over someone's shoulder. When that stopped, is there anything you learned about your craft by not having access to that you might not have discovered otherwise?
Initially, off the bat, it was actually very helpful. And I think a point came where it was not, but someone else mentioned this to me. They're like, athletes, like baseball players, they record themselves swinging and watch it to see the slightest changes that they need to make or see what they did wrong. So I think there was a period of my career, and one of the things I'm so grateful for is I was being cast in things and I still had so much to learn, and watching myself back really helped me be like, oh, that's why that felt weird. It looks weird because I did this, or I was in my head, or whatever it was. So I think that there were things I learned, and then at a certain point, it didn't help me anymore because I was past that point. I didn't need to watch myself. What I needed to do was get out of my head more. And at that point, I now I really don't need to see anything, and I trust the director.
All right, True Detective briefly, because I know in the past you've described your choice to do that show as a tactical decision. So in the end, ultimately, how did it wind up changing things for you, and did you get the results that you were hoping for?
The tactical decision was I went in for the audition and they seemed vaguely interested, and it was for a different role. And I was like, well, they're vaguely interested and I love these actors and I love Cary Fukunaga and I want to be in this show. So let me force them to hire me. I need something on my resume that shows that I can do something different. That was where I sort of was at that point. And that would look to Hollywood like, oh, she's doing something different. I didn't expect to have what I had happen, which was, it's a long time ago now, but getting naked on a show where, I didn't have a huge role. I didn't know what to expect. And then of course that episode aired, and it was just, my manager called, and I'll never forget it. I was sitting on my boyfriend's couch and she calls me in the morning after the episode aired, and she was like, the phone's been ringing off the hook all morning. Like we cannot, the phone won't stop ringing. And, all of a sudden everyone in town wanted to meet with me. And then I booked San Andreas. And so no, I would have never expected that from that role. So it was tactical, but not that tactical.
Applying a similar thinking to White Lotus, is there anything about taking that gig that made you say, at this point of my career, I want to show this side of myself to the industry?
Well, when I took White Lotus, I think, it was in the middle of the pandemic. I didn't expect to work at all. And it kind of just fell in my lap. Working with Mike White was a dream. He's an amazing director. And the project, the material really spoke to me and my sensibilities, and dark comedy and the social commentary and all. I really believed in the project. But there wasn't anything tactical about it except, wow, what a great job to get in the middle of a pandemic. And it shoots in Hawaii. That's great. Let's do it, Back when I did True Detective, I was thinking about things in a very different way. I'm still career focused, but then this was not like, oh, this is the job. I just feel very lucky that I was right for it.
I think I'm allowed to say this because this won't air until White Lotus has started, but you are so good. The show is so good.
Oh, I'm so glad you like it.
I started it and I couldn't turn it off, and it made all these other assignments I had to do so difficult because I kept binging those screeners. So congratulations on that.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, Mike White's amazing. I'm really, really, this was a luck one. I'm really grateful to be part of it. It's a really cool story. I had a great time with the character.
All right, Die in a Gunfight now. What was it about that script when it came your way that made you say, this is the film that I need for myself right now?
It was a beautiful script. That script, the project fascinated me because that script had been around Hollywood for like 12 years with various people attached and even announcements being made. You can see the announcements of all these big actors being attached over like a decade. There was a reason that people were attached to it. It's a really beautiful script and a wonderful love story. And I don't know, I was just fascinated by the idea of getting it made and actually bringing it to life. And it's a love story. It's fun to shoot. I thought it would be, I love the idea of a good love story. It was Romeo and Juliet sort of themed. And I just loved the idea of bringing the character to life. I'm glad that it finally got made. Who doesn't like a good love story? And you get to make out with boys in the rain, and you get, to cry and do very dramatic things. It's fun for me.
Jumping off something that's brought up in the movie, can you cry on cue?
Oh, yes. Basically, yes. Are you going to make me do it?
No, absolutely not. It would break my heart if I did that.
I can cry quite easily. I mean, years of practice, of access. The other thing about being an actor that's kind of interesting is like we're taught sort of in regular life not to cry at the drop of a hat and like to suppress our emotions to get through the day, And as an actor, you're sort of trained to do the opposite. You're trained to understand what makes you angry, understand what makes you sad, understand and know how to access that very quickly, which I actually think is not a bad thing. So yes, I'm very in touch with my sadness.
We've hit the end of Ladies' Night, and we always end it with the same two questions. First one is, can you name someone in the industry that you think is changing it for the better?
There's someone who I know personally who I think is really incredible. Her name's Allison Seeger. She is a producer. She's my age, and she just does incredible work, and watching her work is incredible.
I love that. Now, for the last one, it's a heavy one. You could take it in a lighter direction if you prefer. What is the biggest fear that you've ever had that you've actually managed to overcome?
Flying. I mean, I have a lot of fears. I've had fears like everyone else of failure or of all kinds of things, but flying was a really big one. I used to really, really struggle with it. I still have it a little bit, but I've overcome it just like how they say, facing your fears by doing it. I have to fly. I fly all the time. And over time, you just fly enough that you just, you go to the airport and you don't cry every time the plane takes off. So that's been a huge thing for me.
Why doesn't that advice apply to going to the dentist twice a year? I still cry every time I go to the dentist.
My fear of going to the dentist has not yet been tackled to the point where I have been told by several dentists to have my wisdom teeth out, and I just have not done it. So you're right. I mean, I think a lot of conquering your fear is just doing it.
I'll tell you, I'm the biggest baby in the world when it comes to going to the dentist. The wisdom teeth, you don't even know because they knock you out. You would be totally fine.
Great. I'm going to make my appointment. It's time.
All right, now that I've sent you off to that wonderful experience, I got to say goodbye and let our viewers know that Die in a Gunfight is going to be available in theaters and on demand on July 16th. And then White Lotus kicks off on HBO on July 11th. Do check them out. Alex, huge congratulations on both of them and everything you've accomplished over the years. Thanks for hanging out with us on Ladies' Night.
Thank you so much.